Well, we're back on the comics bandwagon. We're back here on the Toy Channel talking about comics. I might spin it off into its own little thing. I mean, I say spin it off. I've already got a channel. We could totally just do it, but this is easier and less effort. So yeah, this is the current DC event. And I don't know if you'll be seeing this mirrored like I am. I'm not a professional. I still haven't got my head around how cameras work. But yeah, the current DC event is Heroes in Crisis. I'm going to open with a positive and say that the pun title of Heroes in Crisis is great. It might be the best thing about the book, really, is the working of classic DC word crisis into a kind of Band-Aid style, because it just reminds me of Band-Aid. Like, it's a positive, but also like it's a great pun. We have to give them that. But then, end of the day, every time I pick up Heroes in Crisis, I'm reminded of A, Band-Aid, and B, Doctor in Distress, the charity record that Doctor Who put out to save itself during the hiatus of the Sixth Doctor era. So yeah, positive there. Positive, you gotta give them that. It's a banger of a name. That's kind of where the problems start, though, because it's advertising itself, or at least, the very least, it's kind of using the word crisis. And when you have a DC book that's a crisis, it usually means it's a massive banger. Like, it's an event with a capital E. And this is an event with a little e. This is this is an this is an crisis. It's like a eh. I was trying to do something clever there, but it didn't actually quite work out. But yeah, so it's a little crisis. It's not even a crisis. It's kind of a non-event. Reading this issue, the plot, which we'll get to in a bit, it kind of sunk into my brain. It kind of like finally got through it that the things and the problems occurring in this book aren't really any kind of deal at all. But more on that later. So, Heroes in Crisis is about the superheroes of the DC universe having like a wee rehab clinic, like a kind of it's like a wee clinic in, I think it's the Midwest. It might well be Kansas. I mean, a lot of the details just slosh through my brain because everything that happens in this basically goes into the kind of personal discontinuity pile in my brain, which isn't good. You don't want that to be happening in your book, even if it's stuff you don't like. Like in comics, things can happen and you can not like them, but they can still be what's happening, and they can still be like, I don't like it, but it's canon. Like, things happen in this, and I'm just like, aye, of course, whatever, aye, if you say so, book. Like, there's like a wee clinic for superheroes and supervillains, I guess. We'll get to that in a minute. To go to talk about their feelings and their emotions and the troubles they're having. And I, as a central idea for a concept, for a comic, I think that's fine. Like, I have no real problem with the DC heroes having troubles that they need to work out. And that's not necessarily, because I feel like that's kind of a bone of contention, because like traditionally you're meant to think that DC heroes are these kind of demigods that are kind of not human and untouchable and can't be brought down. And sometimes I get to that kind of thinking, but we'll cover it. We'll cover it in the video. I think it's fine. Like, I think it's fine that there's this kind of clinic where they can go and heal, because superhealing takes it out of you. I think that's good. Like, I'm not against that at all. The thing that's happened is that everyone who went there has died, or everyone who was there at the start of the comic has died. They kind of rocked up in issue 1, and like Wally West was dead, and Arsenal, and like loads of other folk. Very kind of event, like when you think about a comic event, you're like, oh, they're just going to kill all the C-listers. Very much that. And I thought we were past that as a people, comics. I thought we were better than this, but apparently not. And the culprits, there's two culprits. There's two it's a kind of whodunit kind of story that's kind of propelling the content along. It's either Booster Gold, who we love, and it's either Harley Quinn, who's terrible. I'm going to lay my cards on the table up front. I don't think that Harley Quinn's that great of a character, to be honest. I think that in the Batman animated series, they did incredible work, and they kind of took the trope of, in the 60s show, the Joker would have like a female henchwoman who was like his girlfriend of the week kind of thing, like a Bond girl kind of thing. Like if you go back and watch the 60s Batman, there was always like a 60s like girl that would hang out with the Joker / the villain of the week. It's a whole thing. And they kind of took that and made it into a recurring character in the animated cartoon. And I think that a lot of the stuff they did in that cartoon was quite important for development of cartoons and stuff. But I think that what's happening with Harley Quinn currently is terrible. They're just pushing her as female Deadpool, and there was already a female Deadpool, so she's kind of like DC Deadpool. And I think Deadpool's pretty insufferable a lot of the time, and I think Harley Quinn's even more so. And there's this whole kind of angle where they're kind of pushing her as a hero, or like a kind of anti-hero, or like a main character. I very much think she should be in jail. There's a lot of characters currently active in comics, or at least active in my time in comics, that should be in jail. Like Cyclops. Cyclops should just go to jail. I don't really know what the current state of Marvel is, because there's probably been like a dozen cosmic retcons since I've stopped reading Marvel. But when I was reading, Cyclops should have went to jail and stayed in jail. At one point after AVX, he was in jail, and then they broke him out. He should have stayed in jail because he's a criminal and a monster. Harley Quinn is, in my mind, a bad guy. I know that she's probably got her own series and they're probably doing lots of work with her. But anytime she turns up in this, it's nigh on insufferable. It's just terrible. And that's kind of the main thrust of the story. It's like, who did it? Who killed all these people? Was it Harley Quinn, the murderer, or Big Lad Booster Gold? And I'm sure it'll probably turn out to be Big Lad Booster Gold, because comics. And I should probably make a separate video on this, but you basically only make comics to hurt people nowadays. Like, maybe not like the little independent books, but the big ones, you basically just make things to hurt people. You put a thing out and you do a story, and it's usually the opposite of what people come to know and expect and want from a character, and that generates controversy, and that generates views, kind of, I guess. Not views, but I'm such a YouTube person, such a millennial, that I'm calling people buying a book views. Purchases, it generates sales, in theory. Dan Slott is a big proponent of that theme. Did he actually say an enraged fan is an engaged fan? Or did someone just say he said that? But I can totally see Slott saying that, because he's a beautiful monster. Because like Dan Slott's run on Spider-Man for the entire time I was reading it was basically just good hate work. That was something I would say when I was reading comics. It's like, oh, I enjoyed that book. It was really good hate work, you know? And I'm kind of hate reading this. Like, I kind of enjoy it. I don't know. It's not as bad as issue 1. Issue 1 of this is possibly up there in one of my worst comics of all time. And I should probably get into that. They kill Wally West. Spoilers. Wally West is currently dead. I mean, he's as currently dead as comics can be. We should preface it. I'm not enraged that Wally West is currently dead. Like, it doesn't matter that he's currently dead, because he'll just be back at some point in the future. And you can say that about any character that dies in anything, pretty much. Especially in comics, because death doesn't mean anything. And I'm not going to sit here and rage for an hour because they killed Wally West. I'm not even that big a Wally West fan. I'm more of a Barry guy, big Bazza. But Wally West, to me, meant something post-Rebirth. DC did their big Rebirth thing, which was specifically them acknowledging that the New 52 line of stuff, the continuity, did not go all that well. Like, I quite liked a lot of it, but most fans, I suppose people are reluctant to change, and it was a pretty big change and a pretty abrupt change, but didn't go quite well. And to be fair to them, they had to get out in front of that and kind of interact with the fandom and interact with the people that were buying the books, and they did that by doing DC Rebirth. Can't actually remember when Rebirth happened now. It might be years ago. It's quite recent to me, because it's kind of the last thing that happened before my comic shop closed. The comic shop I used to go to closed. So it's kind of the last thing that happened to me. And then going into the new comic shop, because the new comic shop recently opened, and Heroes in Crisis being the first book back, Rebirth was fresh in my mind. And then in the first issue of Heroes in Crisis, Wally West is just dead. Wally West, the Flash, just dead. And he means something because in Rebirth, the Rebirth issue itself, it was like a one-shot, but it was like a kind of whole Brandon thing, but they did a one-shot. The one-shot was basically Wally West comes back because the New 52 had erased Wally from existence. Wally had never existed, and then they introduced a different Wally West into the New 52, who was a different character. And I don't really have much memory of like New 52 Wally West. I think he was fine, but like I don't have much memory of him. I'm not against him, but can't really remember a single thing he ever did. But I remember Rebirth because it was a really good issue. I think it was Geoff Johns. From here on in, I'll be referring to Geoff Johns as Geoff Johns because that's how I read it on the issues. And I'm an orc, and I like to say Goff. But Geoff Johns did the issue, and it was basically like an issue-long apology in the form of Wally trying to get back into existence and doing the kind of Flash thing of like running into existence. And I'll have to do like a top 10 comics of all time, or at least moments. I don't know if the whole Rebirth issue would be like top 10 comics, but definitely the moment. Because the structure of that book is Wally goes to his loved ones, and it goes to like his team and his wife and like his family and his friends, and he's like, "Save me! I don't exist. I need to get back." And he's like running through the Speed Force or time or whatever, and they can't see him. And then there's a great moment where he's like, wife doesn't like see him, and it's like this kind of heartbreaking. Not even your like most cherished loved one can like pull you out of this non-existence. And then like the last bit of it is that he meets Big Barry, and like it seems to fail as well. Like Barry doesn't notice him, and then Big Barry does, and Big Barry pulls him into existence. And that big emotion of like Barry saving Wally was incredible. Like that moment, I will always remember because it was just a proper like big dumb silly cosmic but lovable like just great moment. And now Wally's dead. Like they've just killed him. So to me, it's not just so much that they've killed a legacy character, which I think is a big kind of bugbear for a lot of people. It's the fact that they killed their symbol of trying to be better, because people wanted Wally West to come back for ages and they never did. And then Rebirth happened and everybody got what they wanted. And maybe they didn't read the book or whatever, but they got their moment. So them pretty recently, I mean, it's probably been like years now, but it feels pretty recently, just murdering Wally to death. The symbol of their like, we did bad, but we're going to fix it, because that's literally what he is, at least to me, and I hope a lot of people, comes off as a wee bit naff, DC. Like, why would you kill your symbol if we're trying to be better? I know there's been big events and rebrands and stuff since Rebirth. You're no longer calling yourself DC Rebirth or whatever. But it's pretty fresh in the memory that like Wally was your apology. You were like, here, have Wally. We heard you. Now we've murdered him. So yes, like that's good hate work. Like I'm sure you got people to buy issue 1 of this book by murdering Wally. But this is my second point. I'm just going to keep calling it the second point. This is the 8th point. I thought we were better than this. I thought we were beyond just like murdering beloved characters for shock value in issue 1 of our event. But apparently we're not, because like the first issue is they just Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, I want to say, rock up to the sanctuary, and Wally's just dead. He's just dead. So you've killed your symbol. That's hateful. That I have to just. We're gonna stack a giant pile of hatefulness. That's hateful. You've killed your symbol of we're sorry. He's dead. You've done your shock death in issue 1 to get people on board. Thought we were past it. Apparently not. I'm trying to remember what my third point was. And then I don't mind that he's dead, because I know Like, I'm not, because like you say to people like, oh, they killed Wally, that's so hateful, but they'll be like, oh, aye, but it's, comics, like, he'll be back whenever. It doesn't really matter that he'll be back whenever, because that panel now exists. Someone wrote and someone drew and inked and coloured and did all the work to make that panel exist. So that panel of Wally West lying dead on the floor somehow, and we'll get to that, now exists. And I find that terrifically hateful. Like, that single image now exists. It doesn't matter, because I feel like comics have to be taken as they come. Like, the huge continuity attached to them that I love, and I love all the kind of weird stuff you can get out of that, but you kind of have to take them as they come, and like just consider every little issue its own little thing until it's contradicted by another thing. That's kind of served me well for a bit. And you have to consider each individual little panel its own thing. It's its own little work of art. Comics are art. And that little panel of Wally lying dead somehow might be the single most hateful recent work of art I've ever seen. Recently, within the last, what is this, issue 5 months, half a year. I mean, a lot of hateful things happen all the time. It's far from the most hateful, but come on, DC. And then on top of that, somehow Wally West has died. I'm not a big Wally fan. I said that at the start. But he is a Flash. And I don't quite know what would kill a Flash. Like, it would have to be some sort of cosmic god, basically, to come at the Flash. Like, I know he's not Big Bazza, and Big Bazza's over there somewhere doing things, but he's basically the Flash. Like, he is the Flash. In the comic, he calls himself the fastest man alive and stuff, because that's the Flash tagline. Don't know how that really works when there's so many, like, speedsters about. But he's a speedster connected to the Speed Force, which in my mind makes him one of the most, like, powerful people alive. So, in issue 1, you're presented with the fact that something, we're not quite sure what, Cthulhu maybe, has rocked up to this, like, wee hoose in the Midwest, and for some reason taken it upon himself to attempt to murder Big Wally somehow. Like, I can't really convey the sheer, like, epic billion-part event that would have to lead up to the death of a Flash. It's almost like it took, 20 years and the first ever crisis to kill Big Bazza, Barry went down to the Anti-Monitor via, like, heroic sacrifice. And I know Wally's probably died multiple times that I don't know about because I'm not that big a fan, but what could kill a Flash? Like, what could kill a Flash, basically? Because I'm building up to the fact that it's apparently Harley Quinn. Because I forget which issue it is, but like he's doing, like, Wally's doing stuff. He's got I feel like he's got like a VR program of his, like, missing family. I don't know if his family exists, because he exists, but it's a whole thing. Comics. But she gets the drop on him. Somehow Harley Quinn surprises the Flash and, like, whomps him with her mallet, and apparently he's dead. So apparently Harley Quinn killed a Flash, which is a painful level of staggeringly dumb, because Harley Quinn is a human with a wooden weapon. I was going to say a baseball bat, but she did have her mallet, so fair play there. She had her mallet. But and someone was telling me that she's, like, got poison ivy steroids, which I kind of like, because they're in a relationship, or they were in the cartoon, and that's kind of a whole thing. But those steroids aren't going to make you strong enough to kill a Flash who can, like, vibrate into other universes and can phase and is basically broken. Like, most superheroes are basically broken. Like, most superheroes with do anything powers, like the Flash. The Flash is great because like, think of Green Lantern, and he's like a do anything superhero because he has a ring that can generate constructs that can make things, and you see that everywhere in comics, especially in the Silver Age, when, like, Mr. Fantastic can, like, stretch his arms, but that basically means he can do anything because he can make other things like constructs. I know you wouldn't call Mr. Fantastic's arms constructs, but, Plastic Man, basically, he can do anything because he can change shape. There's a lot of that. The Flash is that, but via the power of running, which is amazing because he's just running, but the comic writers somehow generated that into this whole broken thing. You can tell that I like more stuff about the Flash than I do about Harley Quinn, who is just a person. So the thing on top of that is it's a multi-layered hate pile. Somehow you've killed the Flash, but there's this kind of conceit. I don't know if that's the right word. I feel like people say that's the right word. Conceit. That the comic, in its early issues, I must add, it's not been mentioned recently, in its early issues it says that there's this, like the sanctuary in the Midwest is like this hyper reality. So there was kind of like vague tones of kind of VR or the Matrix or something. There was like something there. And that was kind of the feel around issue 1 was like, aye, Wally's dead, but there's something going on. And like the rug will be pulled out from under us at some point and it'll be fine. Which it will. Like if you live long enough, it'll be fine. It'll just revert back to the status quo, or close enough. But they've kind of dropped the hyper-reality thing. I don't know if that ever gets mentioned in these later issues. I don't know if it's just been forgotten or if they went in a different direction while writing it. It's just, it's a bit concerning, to be honest, because I was just waiting for it to be like, it's the Matrix and everybody's fine and we had a good time exploring the delusions and emotional problems of superheroes, which is, I guess, what the core of the book is. But so basically I thought we were better than this. I thought we were better than just shock killing superheroes. And that's basically issue 1. And we're at I'm going to keep checking. We're at issue 5 of 9. And things have gotten better, but kind of mediocrely so. Like, there's not been anything necessarily as hateful as Wally dying. They kind of put it all up front with that. It's not been great. Like, I don't think I like the writing of this Tim King fellow. This young man, Tim. Is it Tim King? Tom King? I don't know. It's confounded by the fact that all of the other, the big DC books seem to be written by a team of returning lads. Because you've got your, current folk, but also, Snyder is doing the Batman Who Laughed. So Snyder is writing Batman now, so he's on Batman. Morrison has returned from out of nowhere to do Green Lantern. Big Geoff Johns is doing Shazam. So all the other, big ticket, top tier DC things have these cracking writers on them from my youth / 10 years ago. And I don't really know, I don't follow the other works of this man. I know he's got a big run on Batman that's apparently split the fan base, and I can see why. It's a thing where, I read a book and then I'm like, this writer doesn't get the character. Usually it's Superman. Usually you read a book and then Superman's portrayed in a way and you're like, the writer doesn't get Superman. King, I feel like he kind of gets the characters, but he's kind of writing them not great. It's quite infuriating because normally I'd just be like, this man is terrible. He's terrible. I want to say he's terrible. But I've read stuff from him. His thing in Action Comics 1000, his little Superman bit, I quite liked a lot of it. So it's infuriating that he's both hateful and not hateful. I feel like a lot of this is kind of paint by numbers stuff as well. It's very popular elements with a kind of, I don't even know. I feel like the whole exploring superheroes, their kind of mental state and stuff. I feel like that's kind of, it's a good intention, but I don't feel like it's coming from a good place. It doesn't feel like it's getting, because basically they cover that by these panels, these very Bendis-y grids of people, talking heads basically, and they talk about their foibles. And usually, unless it's one of the main characters, it's just kind of a throwaway thing where some C-list hero does a thing and it's apparently sad. And I want to praise the kind of the intention there. We'll do a big event comic where it's I don't know. It feels like it's just trying to be dark, it's trying to be edgy, and it's not succeeding. It's not the worst thing, but it's not good. It's nothing to talk about. It's just kind of there, and it feels quite lazy as well because it's just It's usually just a variation on the same panel over and over, and they take up like half the comic. And then half of this comic is also a big speech by Superman, and I didn't feel it. And see, when you're doing a big speech by Superman, I should feel it. You know, it should be a big like, yeah, Superman. I was just sitting going, Superman. Like it didn't resonate, which is a problem. It didn't resonate. I feel like some of the characters are wildly out of character. See, Lois Lane. I don't know, right? I don't know, because I think of Lois Lane as a bit of a lad, and she kind of, her arc is that she's putting out an expose on the Sanctuary and exposing it to the world, and she's got like tapes. There shouldn't be tapes, but there's tapes. And like, I feel like Lois wouldn't do that. Like she's not like some, in the comics I've read, she's not some, like, she's hungry for the scoop. She's like a 30s like news reporter lady, but she's not like obsessively so. She's not going to like put out this thing that compromises the superhero community because she's part of the superhero community. Was she not Superwoman for like the longest? She was Superwoman a while back. So like, I don't know. Like she like just puts it out, and it feels like she would be on side, and she wouldn't like, she'd run it by people. You know, it just maybe it's wrong to say that like she had to ask permission from Superman, but like, there's multiple times where they're like in bed together or in the same room together, and she's like, I did it. And there was a horrible bit where like it like went to press 35 minutes ago in like a Watchmen reference, and like, get over it, people. Like, it's been decades. Watchmen's not that great. Like it's I'm gonna, like, if anybody was listening to this, they're gonna like kick off now. But like, Watchmen is good, but who cares? Like, it's so low key and not fun and grim and depressing and so 80s and so intrinsically 80s. That's a video for another time. But I know that's everything people love about it, but I just don't have time for it. Also, like, this is a splash page in the comic. It's look, Harley Quinn's in her like outfit from the comics, not from the cartoon, but she's got her like millennial Suicide Squad hair. Like, I think this looks terrible. Am I in like the minority here? It's not a terrible page of a comic. It's also a horrible wee plot line where like Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, and Harley Quinn are running about rooftops for an indeterminate point in time, and people are looking for Harley Quinn, and Batman can't find her. And like, Barbara Gordon has, and she's taken it upon herself to like, I guess, clear Harley's name because they're pals. Harley Quinn should be in jail. Just go to jail. Take her to. She's a criminal. Take her to jail. I don't care if you like her. I don't care if she's weirdly your pal. I don't know, man. Because like, I suppose the whole thing there is like, oh, the Harley was like mistreated and abused by the Joker. It's like, she was. She should get help for that. She should also be in jail because she's a criminal. Like, I'm not going to say she should be excused for her actions because she's a terrible person. And like, it's not like this comic makes a defense of that, because they've kidnapped Booster, they've kidnapped Skeets, because they've got Skeets, Booster Gold's robot sidekick. And like, Batman couldn't get any information out of him. Like, Batman, who is Batman, remember, couldn't get any information out of him about the whereabouts of Booster. So they like, Barbara, like, in a really weird like bit of like there's just like this whole bit. I don't know if you can read that, but it was very tonally weird. She gets like Skeets, and then like that scene where Harley Quinn has a splash page in her like outfit to be like, oh look, it's Harley Quinn. I don't care. Like, this is terrible. Like, this is emblematic of how terrible the things that are featured in this book are. They're just gonna like torture Skeets, it seems. Like, Batman did loads of computer things and couldn't get information out of him, but Harley Quinn's gonna like threaten him or attack him with her mallet, and it will see, like, to move the comic forward, they're gonna have to get information out of him. So they're just gonna torture Skeets. Like, what, Barbara? What? Like, why would you torture Skeets? Maybe I'm wrong. Like, if you've read this and that's like, if I'm totally getting the wrong end of the stick, but it very much seems like they're going to like threaten Skeets. I hope that's his name. That's how I read it. Booster and Skeets, yeah. Like, you're going to torture R2D2. Like, you're going to like intimidate him. for information that Batman, like, you saying that like Batman didn't try that? Like, I am befuddled by that. That was, like, I say it's not been as hateful, but that was a befuddling moment. Like, ooh, like I don't know. I don't know. The other element of the book is attempting to pander to things that I like and not quite getting it right. There's Booster and Beetle hanging out, making plans, having a good time. I think I like that's stuff that I wanted in the New 52, because like that the New 52 kind of took that away because you didn't have Ted Kord and stuff. It's kind of weird to me that like Ted exists in that form now, because he was like a hipster in Forever Evil. I know universe reboots have happened, kind of, so just assume that, you know, that's in there now, but it doesn't. It's all just surrounded by stuff that I don't like. And in this issue, they make a plan to go. Like Booster went to Barry before to get information or to like work out what's going on, because Booster can't remember stuff. There's something up, basically. There's a plot in the meta plot. Something's up, and it'll have to like come out and it'll explain everything. And they're just trying to get all the pieces together. So they're going to go get Barry. He apparently went and did that. I couldn't remember, but apparently he went to Barry and Barry just beat him up. So their plot in this was to go do that again, because that was dumb and like no one would expect the dumb move. And that's what they do. And I'm kind of on board with that. And then they go and like zap Barry with something, and then Barry goes down. Like I like Booster Gold, and I think he is a competent hero. I'm not like into saying Booster and like Ted are not competent. It's just, you know, I'm not quite sure how they just took down Big Baza is all. It's a weird one. It just... That's the thing, I was thinking about this. In concept, I'm not quite against this. Like, it using the crisis word, the C word, is like, it's obviously to get like sales and stuff and like make it feel like a big DC crisis. Like a crisis is like a spiritual thing to a DC fan. You know, it's like, oh, time for a crisis, eh? Like an infinite crisis, like a crisis on Infinite Earth, that kind of a thing. You know, it means big things are afoot. Except when it was Identity Crisis, and I don't. It's been a while since I've like reread Identity Crisis. I flip flop on liking it or not. I don't like that it's a crisis, but it's a very low key thing. And one of the biggest crimes this commits is like codifying the fact that there's like a subgenre of crisis, like a capital Eh? Why was I saying E? I don't remember. A capital C, a capital K. It's a K. It's a little crisis. Like it's a non-crisis, and like this existing and continuing to exist makes the genre, the genre. It makes the sub kind of thing of a crisis, the little crisis, is more of a thing, because now you've got Identity Crisis and this, and like as much as I think it's valid, because it's definitely valid. Like you can't take that away from it. It's definitely a valid thing. You can totally do little, like it's attempting to be a more personal crisisy thing where there's loads of heroes, but we're actually seeing some character work. Like that's commendable. It's not done well, but it's commendable. But I kind of just want crises to be big, massive, crazy, universe defining, splitting, like boxing off events. Post-crisis, pre-crisis. It's dumb, but it's kind of what I want. It's a small crime, but it's definitely a crime it commits. The other thing, the thing I said at the start of the video, was it's kind of a non-event. Like, not even in event terms, but in kind of like the plot. The whole Sanctuary thing, the whole like, oh no, like there's this secret hero like Sanctuary where they can go and heal like mentally after like they've had troubles. You know, it's weird they made it look so much like a sex cult, like they did with the robes and masks. Why they leaned into it as much as they did in that front, not sure. But the world finding out about that is not really that big of an event. Like, like, oh no, superheroes have problems. Shock horror, everyone. Shock horror. There'll be panic in the streets. You know, it's not like Starro isn't invading today. It's not like there's the 12th giant robot in Metropolis of the day. No, the big news story of the day is going to be that superheroes have emotional problems because they're people. Like I know it's a scandalous thing, but it's just such a like reading this and like reading the whole kind of like Superman has this speech where it's like you don't have to fear it kind of thing, and he's like talking about how people are like superheroes are top guys and everything, and like I have always thought like the Marvel public, the kind of general public in Marvel are the worst people that have ever lived in fiction. Like they will just they're like Springfield. They will like drop at the drop of a hat, they will go pitchforks and torches and just go, install Norman Osborn as their, world police. They are the worst. They are the genuine worst. They might have gotten better in the last decade, but when I was reading comics, everything that happened, the general public in Marvel just take it the wrong way. And like I know it's probably a hang up because they hate mutants and the whole kind of mutant hating thing has to happen in Marvel. That's a different video for a different day, but the DC public are top guys, they're lovely. They're lovely people. The Avengers, the JLA Avengers from the late 90s, early 2000s made a huge point of that, where like Barry went to the Marvel universe and got beat up because they thought he was a mutant. And then when the Avengers came to DC, they were like, oh no, like the superheroes are loved in this universe. Like there's a Flash museum. Like it's fine. Like it's a genuine non-event that Sanctuary exists. Like, and also like, yes, people have died at Sanctuary, but superheroes die every second in comics. It shouldn't. It's not a 9-issue crisis that Sanctuary exists and that people have found out about it. It's just kind of a thing that happened. Like that would be like you're watching the superhero news or you're watching the news in Metropolis, and then like at the end, before like the dog stories or whatever, they'd just be like, oh, there's like this, health clinic for superheroes and people died at it. There was a shooting, because I guess they were kind of going for like a mass shooting kind of a thing. Feels a wee bit exploitative. I saw people talking about that and kind of projecting it onto the comic, and I didn't particularly get it. I'd probably have to do a reread to take that in, but I don't really want to reread this. It's boring and not great, and the artwork is mixed at best. Because like there's weird fan service and stuff. There's like a shot of Lois Lane from, I think it was last issue or the issue before, where she's like, it's like a big splash page of her just being in a Superman t-shirt and her pants, and it's weird. It's a weird moment of fan service. Like I don't get what they were trying to say with that fan service, to be honest. It was there, and like I think the art is fine. I don't know. I don't want to say the proportions are bad on Harley Quinn there, but there's just something I just don't care for. I don't think it's tasteful. But yeah, I feel like that's all of my points on why Heroes in Crisis sucks. Is that the title of the video? I can't remember. It's been half an hour now. Yeah. Like that's basically my emotion when I read it. I'm just like, meh, this happened, or basically didn't, because everyone that appears in it has been written by a bigger, better writer. Like Bendis is on Superman right now, so anything that happens to Superman in this, no, it didn't. I don't know why I'm being as like this as I am tonight, but yeah. Basically, I read this, like I get this, I'm like, I read it and I'm like, yep, that happened, I guess. And then I'm like, I'm going to read a better book and enjoy it and forget about it and basically store all this, not quite hate, but kind of, words. I can store all these words in my brain for this video. Like I say, it's gotten better with every issue. It's not gotten good with every issue, but it's gotten better than what it was, because issue 1 was a bad time. Far from the worst comic I've ever read. Far from the very worst. That would probably... I'll have to do a video about Secret Wars 2015 or whatever it was. That issue one was fine of that. It was issue 2 where like they hyped up their big end of the Ultimate Universe, all the end of the Marvel Universe thing, and they did the Marvel Universe like 1962 to whatever to 2015, 63, 62, whatever it was, and then the thing after that was a Game of Thrones pandering mess for forever, and that the hate work on that was incredible. But yes. Heroes in Crisis is a bad time. I don't know what the sales figures are. I hear that sales are down pretty much everywhere for comics, and especially for DC, and Heroes in Crisis is probably not helping. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. Thanks for watching. It's been a good time. I'll do more of these because I have thoughts on comics. Like, comic, and subscribe. I bet no one's ever said that before. We've got a Patreon. I don't know if it's listed anywhere. We should probably get on that. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to press the end of the stream video. There we go. Bye!